Shall I start?
Yeah.
Or you have to press something?
So can you, because they can.
Hello and good evening. First of all, let me say that I feel very honored to have been given the first Govindbhai Patel Memorial Award. Govindbhai was a great friend of mine, a highly respected figure in the industry, and we used to work very closely on collating statistics and checking on SNDs for the world, for India. In fact, his company GGN has helped me prepare my paper even for the Globe Oil conference in the next 2-3 days. So I am delighted to accept the award in memory of my great friend Govindbhai Patel. I congratulate SEA and GGN for instituting the award, and I have decided to donate the proceeds, the cash proceeds of the award, to Project Mustard, which is my favorite project and a great project for our country in encouraging the production of mustard seed. Now, I come to my thoughts on the world economy, which I always present every year in person at the SEA AGM. So let's get started with my presentation. We are in a current crisis in the world economy. How did we get into this crisis? First, there is the threat of higher interest rates. In fact, in 2 days' time, the Fed will announce further interest rates, 2 days' time from the time I am recording this. There is a crunch in natural gas in Europe because Russia has shut off natural gas supplies to Europe. Natural gas prices are 8 times the normal price at this time of the year last year. Then there is also the mischief of OPEC Plus, who are talking up the price of crude oil. As a result of these high energy prices and the commodity high prices, there is a threat of inflation. In fact, it's no longer a threat. We are seeing inflation rampant in Europe, the United Kingdom, and above all, the United States. This is being made worse by the very strong dollar, which means that the euro is at parity with the dollar and the pound is at a 40-year low to the US dollar. And finally, as if this was not enough, we have the war in Ukraine and all the problems and blockages that come as a result of war in the Black Sea. So this is the reason why we are in the crisis that we are. And as a result of this crisis, the US Federal Reserve is in a very tough spot. It is a problem partly of their own making because they kept on printing money, kept on reflating, kept on doing QE, quantitative easing, in order to sustain growth, maybe for political reasons, but they kept on doing it, first under the Trump administration, then under the Biden administration. And all over the world, central banks all over were printing money as if there was no tomorrow. And when inflation started rearing its ugly head, first they said, oh, it is only transitory. This inflation is there today, it will not be there tomorrow. They were wrong. Inflation is here to stay, and now they have to slay the dragon of inflation. And the Fed has got to regain its credibility. And that is why I am afraid they will have to keep raising interest rates. They will have to carry on raising interest rates until they drive the US economy into recession. Can the Fed engineer a soft landing? A soft landing is where they don't have to raise interest rates too much and inflation begins to come down. Historically, that has never happened. Whenever inflation has been at these levels, 8-9%, the Fed has had to raise interest rates higher than the rate of inflation. Now, I don't think that is going to be necessary, but they certainly will have, they cannot keep interest rates down to 2% or 3%. We are now talking, the latest gossip is that interest rates will peak at 4.5% on US government debt. Maybe more, maybe less. But the fact is that when these interest rates are so high, it will crush housing demand, it will crush demand in general, the dollar will be too strong, and the US economy, along with Europe and most of the developed world, will go into recession. India is in a sweet spot, but China, which used to be the engine of growth, is already spluttering. The other reason why I think we will have recession and the Fed will not stop raising interest rates is that the political position of the Democrats has improved a lot in the United States. So there is no longer that compulsion to save the Democrats in the November midterm elections. So the Fed will do what it is necessary to do. The other big problem is Europe, the energy crisis, and the Ukraine war. Europe has a massive problem with the shutting off of gas by the Russians, natural gas supplies. But I have a feeling, everyone says the worst is going to be in winter. Europe will freeze. They will have to pay sky-high prices. I feel usually markets discount all that in advance. And so we may have seen the worst of high energy prices by now. Already in the United States, natural gas prices are falling every day. In Europe also, natural gas prices have peaked and are falling. So it may be that winter will be tricky, but manageable. And the good thing will be that Europe will become less dependent on Russian gas. So as they say, every cloud has a silver lining. What do I expect of the Ukraine war? Russia is clearly under pressure. Indian media may not be reporting everything that is available to us in the West to read. But my feeling is that Mr. Putin will have to take his troops home for Christmas. His troops were sent on a short-term mission. Victory will be achieved in 2 weeks. We will be in Kiev in February. They have been in Belarus since early January. They finally entered Ukraine on 24th of February. And they are still there, bogged down and now taking losses. In my opinion, and this is purely a personal opinion, Russian victory is now impossible. It can only be a face-saving ceasefire, or it can be a withdrawal by the Russian army units, claiming that, oh, whatever we wanted, we have achieved. Now we are going home. We are going home for Christmas. But one way or another, I feel that the peak war in Ukraine is over. Some hostilities may continue, but it will be much less than what we have seen so far. And finally, how do the macros shape for next year? Recession is coming for sure in 2023. Most commodity prices have peaked. They will now go lower, not very low, but lower than what they used to be. The one problem in the developed world is manpower shortage. And because of that, rising wage costs, which are affecting growth. In the United States, there are 2 vacancies for every 1 unemployed person. We have never had that in history. And that is why I feel it is going to be very difficult for industry in the United States to cut wages. They will never be able to cut wages. They may be able to slow down wage increases. But every time wages increase, inflation goes up. So these are very stubborn factors which will lead to inflation remaining a problem with us through the remaining months of this year and early part of next year. But after inflation has been conquered, we can expect a recovery in 2023 in equity prices. And the recovery in equity will eventually lead to a recovery in commodity prices, but it will take some time. So my friends, my final word to you is that you have to be patient, you have to be disciplined, and good times will finally come. Thank you.